Hello and welcome. I'm Kritika Saxena. I have with me John Chambers in his first ever interview as the incoming chairman of the US IBC. He is, of course, and he doesn't need to be introduced at this role. He's the executive chairman of Cisco. John, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for speaking to CNBC TV 18.
It's going to be fun, and I look forward to the interview.
All right, John.
Now, be gentle with me.
I'll try. I'll try. Vice versa. Okay, so, the one thing that everyone was asking, what will John Chambers do next after Cisco? Things were completely changing at Cisco, and, there was questions that, okay, maybe John can come back. But yes, you're now at US IBC. So why US IBC? It's completely different to the kind of role that you've had so far in the hardcore technology space. So what made you choose US IBC, given that it's at the heart of the trade relations between the two countries at this point?
Well, I have a tremendous amount of respect for US IBC and the effectiveness it's been since Henry Kissinger founded it in 1974. It's been very effective, and I think it's about to be even more effective. But to be very candid, my first reaction, a tremendous honor. Then I thought, I'm not sure that's what I want to do at this stage of my life. And then I took a step back, and I believe the internet can change the world.
Okay.
And I began to look at the changes that are going on as we move from the information age to a digital age, which I think people in India probably get more than any other country in the world, the opportunities and the challenges it presents. $19 trillion in economic activity as an example. As we move where every company and every business becomes a technology company underneath that. And it doesn't matter whether it's a country, a city, a small company, or even in a person's home. And then the third element that really caused me to change was your leader. I've met every major leader in the world for almost 30 years. And I think your Prime Minister Modi has the potential to be one of the top 5 I've ever seen in terms of changing their country and changing the world in a very positive way. So Cisco makes our living on inflection points, and we've done very well over a number of years, and Chuck Robbins, the next CEO, will do even better. But at this stage, this was suddenly my dream of potentially changing the world. And if it weren't for your leader, if it weren't for the digital age coming in and replacing the information age, and if it weren't for this is going to affect every citizen in India and every citizen in the world and every company, then probably it would not have been as exciting to me. Once I thought about it, I couldn't say no. In fact, I wish I could tell you I was just doing a good deed. I thought I would have fun doing it and perhaps make a difference.
All right, so taking from that point, John, the one question I'm asking every tech CEO, Prime Minister Modi is trying to encourage all companies, Microsoft, Google, Cisco, Facebook, to increase their investments in India, to partner with the government. But, the point I want to understand is how do you expect to, there are basic issues like connectivity, like basic issues like call drops that happen on a day-to-day basis. How do you bridge the gap that we are seeing in the corners of India, and how do companies come in then, how do foreign companies come in then and create that ecosystem which can actually breed innovation?
Okay, so a series of questions. If you watch, there has to be a partnership with the government, and that's why US IBC makes such sense to me. Both businesses working together and government working together, and the country leaders have to believe in it. Number 2, you've got to get it on a transition. I think every high-tech company in Silicon Valley and in the US grasps there's a transition going on in the world, and with this leader, a very good probability of a transition in India. Will there be bumps along the way? Absolutely, and you're talking to the company that invented outsourcing and manufacturing and took a large part of it to China in partnership with the Chinese government 20 years ago, one of the first decisions I made as the CEO. So you're able to see these transitions occurring, and I believe those changes will occur. And with broadband to every citizen in India, all of a sudden you can address issues from education, preparing a next generation skill set for job creation, to retail, to dramatically reducing the travel with all the pollution that goes on. And you could suddenly change a country, and it could be the model for the rest of the world. If you can do that with 1.3 billion people and really change their standard of living in a big way, that's what gets exciting. Now you can say, well, John, those are dreams, those are big numbers. Do you really believe them? Look at the information age. President Clinton clearly led in the U.S., and even though I'm from the other political party, he did a very good job. 22.5 million jobs with a country that has just over 300 million people at that time. 18% growth in GDP, 17% in the real per capita income growth. That's the type of opportunity that exists, except not by one-for-one correlation to the prior information age, but 5 to 10 times the leverage that occurs. So to be a part of that gets very exciting. I believe in changing the world, and I actually think your leader will, and it would be an honor to be a part of that.
And the regulatory hurdles, the privacy issues, the very evident issues with respect to certainty in investment, that does not worry you?
Well, I think you have to overcome the challenges. So if you really look at the Prime Minister's agenda of a digital India, a made in India, a skills in India, a startup in India, you look at those areas, you're going to have to remove hurdles as you go forward. And this is where I think it's going to take a very strong government leader and leadership team that has the courage to make the changes and move those hurdles. But I've been very direct over the last year since I've watched what's occurred in your country. And I'm doubling down in India, and we're about to double down again. So we have that type of trust and confidence. And when I talk to top business leaders around the world, most of them say if you're going to bet on an emerging country right now, India is the place to bet. But you also got to realize the government does have to reduce the regulations. They got to make it much easier to do business. They have to change how manufacturing will be done and the logistics, etc. with it. You've got to give everyone an equal playing field. You've got to have a startup mentality, and then you've got to reskill the workforce for where the jobs will be, so you can absorb 1 million jobs a month, new, which I think is doable.
Okay. In that case, the volatility that we are seeing in, you take the entire BRIC pack, there's volatility in China, there's volatility in Brazil. Will the eye stand out in that case? Do you think that we are well positioned to grab the opportunities that these geographies will miss?
I think the answer is very much yes. Now, I hope that every geography moves on it, but candidly, India is way ahead of your counterparts in the world. At the present time, you can feel the Indian economy actually picking up. Your country is 76%, I think, domestic GDP generation, where many of the other countries are very much export or global trade requirements. So when the global market slows down a little bit or China slows down a little bit, everybody else is impacted. You have the advantages of the largest democracy in the world and the disadvantages with it in terms of speed of change. But just repeating the same theme, I think you have the majority of positives versus your peers to lead. The question is, will you have the courage to do it? Will the people in India have the patience to say we've got to change and not expect it this quarter or this year? Every change we make at Cisco, we talk about it, but it takes 3 to 4 years really to drive it through effectively. So the key is, do you have a vision, then do you remove the roadblocks, and then do you show regular progress along the way?
Okay. So when you look at these geographies from a Cisco point of view, what stands out? Is it still India versus China? Will India gain significance when you look at Cisco's footprint right now in the next 5 years?
Well, I don't think it's one country versus another. I think it's which countries move most aggressively. I've been in China personally for 30 years. I think you're seeing their current leadership move dramatically, and you just saw that in Seattle this last week, and I had the honor of spending a lot of time with their top leaders in Seattle, and they are a country that clearly is in a period of rapid change. If you look at India, it's a country that is in a period of rapid change as well, but it is the advantages of the largest democracy in the world, and it's a workforce where many of the engineers speak English, and the ability really to work together and partner in a win-win environment. So I think both countries will do well in the future, and I think those are the two that probably will lead. I think India has the chance to lead the whole world, so I'm clearly doubling down on India again.
You're doubling down on India again, okay? And in the next, say, 5 years for Cisco, what is the kind of projection that you would make? Would India continue or would accelerate the pace of growth in the next 5 years, given the changes that we're seeing in the economy?
I think India will accelerate the growth. I think if you watch 1 to 3% incremental just from the digital age alone, and that's a very doable number. If you make the transitions that Prime Minister Modi is talking about, I think you create a whole generation of new startups. And 40% of the companies in the U.S., in Europe and in India that exist today won't exist in 10 years. And I'm talking about the big companies. There's going to be a brutal disruption. It's all about, as every company becomes a digital company, how does this change? It offers opportunities for new companies to come up and displace those, or it offers for existing companies to reinvent themselves. Almost every CEO now agrees with that, probably 90%. Where 2 years ago when I first started talking about this and talked about the brutal disruption that's going to occur, people said, John, that's nice, I understand the internet, but I don't see it. Now the CEOs get it.
Okay. We're talking about digital India. We're talking about smart India. We're talking about increasing the innovation landscape. But the sense I get from every startup in India is their hands are tied with regulatory hurdles. Do you feel that India has what it takes in terms of innovation to build the next WhatsApp, next Facebook of the world? And do you believe that we will be able to go through or jump through the loopholes that the regulatory hurdles present itself?
Well, a series of questions again, taking them in sequence. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have been very excited.
Okay.
If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said India has not delivered on the entrepreneurial startup opportunities that gets there. And candidly, as recently as 2 years ago, I didn't see government willing to change what's going to be required. Now when I talk to my venture capital friends and my other startup friends, etc., they're getting very optimistic about India again, because once you put in a digital infrastructure with broadband over time as quickly as you can to every citizen, that opens up new retail opportunities. It opens up not to be the next Facebook, but the company beyond Facebook, or the company beyond Google, or the company beyond Amazon. And you're starting to see money follow that. So if the government and business and citizens can work together and will make the changes needed, I'm back optimistic on the entrepreneurial environment in India, and we will be bringing hundreds of millions of dollars to invest in Indian startups. So we're going to back it with our capital. We believe that the timing looks very good. We're realistic. There are some real challenges that people have to get over in each area. But assuming the government works hard to remove most of those hurdles, then I'm pretty optimistic about a innovative India. And that might actually be the real major word. A digital India, an innovative India that allows every citizen in the country to participate. I mean, that gets pretty exciting.